My name is Harold, and after 15 years of marriage, the foundation of love and trust one had built my life on collapsed under a truth that broke me completely. Lauren and I first met in our mid-20s, both just stepping into the professional world. She was in finance at a pharmaceutical company, while I was beginning my climb in healthcare administration. From the beginning, there was an effortless connection. We shared values about family, ambition, and the dream of creating a steady, comfortable future together. Those early years were everything I'd hoped for. We bought our first home, traveled whenever our budget allowed, and supported each other through career changes and everyday struggles. Lauren was ambitious and driven, qualities I admired deeply. Over time, she landed a position at a larger pharmaceutical firm and steadily worked her way into senior management in regulatory affairs. I carved out my own success, eventually becoming director of operations at a regional medical center. The jobs were demanding, but we understood the pressures and believed we made a strong team. At least, that's what I thought. Looking back, the first cracks appeared around year 10. Lauren became distant. She criticized little things I did, came home stressed but refused to talk about her day, and brushed off the date nights or trips I planned with excuses about work. I convinced myself it was just a phase, part of marriage's natural ups and downs. By our late 30s, we were buried in responsibilities, our routines heavy and predictable. I believed, like before, we would weather it. But things changed in year 12. Lauren started mentioning a new executive at her company, Michael. She spoke of his sharp strategies, his impact on their department, his industry predictions, even funny stories from business lunches. At first, I felt relieved. She seemed excited about work again. Michael was married with 2 children, so I had no reason to feel uneasy. But soon, his name came up constantly. She stayed late working on project with him, attended conferences where he spoke, and texted him during dinner, apologizing because it was urgent. Around the same time, she started paying more attention to her appearance. Nothing wrong with that, but it was different, intentional. The hardest part was how uninterested she grew in me. She would rather stay at the office than have dinner together. Weekend became catch-up time for her backlog. Vacations and evening plans I suggested were brushed off without thought. The distance between us widened until I no longer knew how to reach her. When I told her I felt disconnected, she turned defensive, accusing me of being needy or of not respecting her workload. Somehow, I ended up feeling guilty for wanting her time and attention. Still, I held on. I loved her, and I convinced myself she loved me too, even if she showed it differently now. Then came the truth that shattered everything. One evening, Lauren's best friend Janet called me asking if we could meet privately. Lauren was away at a conference. I would later understand that's exactly why Janet chose that moment. When she arrived, she looked uneasy, very unlike her usual straightforward self. Sitting in my living room, she drew a breath and told me something I couldn't process at first. Lauren had confided in her. She had feelings for someone at work. And it wasn't just emotional anymore. It had become physical. Lauren had even admitted she was torn, not wanting to hurt me, but believing she was in love with this man. I refused to believe it. I told Janet she must have misunderstood. Lauren would never betray me. 15 years together, everything we had built, the life we shared, none of it fit with the image of her having an affair. But Janet's expression carried a sadness I couldn't ignore. She admitted she had struggled for months over whether to tell me, but she couldn't keep watching me live blindly. She said Lauren had even asked her for advice about leaving me for Michael. That was when Janet knew she had to speak up. Even then, I clung to denial. Maybe it was just a passing crush. Maybe Janet exaggerated. I thanked her for being honest, but said I needed time before confronting Lauren. Janet looked disappointed, but understanding. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed every late evening, every business trip. If I confronted Lauren too soon, she would only deny everything and find new ways to conceal it. I needed proof that couldn't be twisted or explained away. Reluctantly, I hired a private investigator. The decision felt wrong, almost like I was betraying her by spying, but living in uncertainty was unbearable. If I was mistaken, I could move forward and try to repair what was left. But if I was right, I needed to face reality. 3 weeks later, The investigator placed a folder in my hands. Inside were photographs, timelines, and documents. The truth was there in black and white. Lauren and Michael had been involved for years. There were pictures of them entering hotels together, records of trips Lauren had passed off at solo business conferences, and other evidence of their hidden affair. Michael was 42, married to his wife Gloria for 16 years, and they had 2 teenage boys. He had joined Lauren's company about 3 years earlier, the same period the investigator confirmed their relationship began. Gloria, heartbreakingly, was completely unaware. Looking through those photographs crushed me. Lauren smiling, holding hands, being physically close with another man. It felt like watching the life I had built collapse in front of my eyes. Yet, strangely, alongside the pain came clarity. All the times I had blamed myself, wondering if I was being too needy or imagining her distance, I finally saw the truth. She hadn't just drifted away. She had already abandoned our marriage. I couldn't stop thinking about Gloria, the other spouse living in the same deception. She deserved to know as much as I did. After some searching, I found her professional email and reached out, asking to meet privately. She agreed. We sat across from each other at a coffee shop, and I showed her the evidence, letting her decide how much she wanted to see. She went through it carefully. Pain crossed her face at first, then something colder, determination. She explained that this wasn't Michael's first betrayal. Earlier in their marriage, he'd had another affair. She had forgiven him back then for the sake of their children, but deep down, she had always expected it would happen again. Now, she told me, she was finished. She promised to call a divorce lawyer immediately and ensure Michael paid the price. That conversation shook me. Until then, I had been so focused on saving my marriage that I never stopped to ask what I wanted if saving it was no longer possible. For the first time, I realized I needed to protect myself. I hired my own attorney, gathered all financial records, and began preparing for divorce. Since we didn't have children, that part would be easier, but our assets were significant. My lawyer explained that evidence of Lauren's affair could weigh heavily in my favor during negotiations, especially regarding alimony. During this period, I detached emotionally. Lauren noticed and asked if something was wrong. I brushed it off, keeping my composure, though inside I was done. 3 weeks later, Gloria called to tell me she had filed for divorce. She also warned me that Michael had been served papers, which meant Lauren would soon find out. Gloria had no intention of keeping it quiet. She wanted everyone to see Michael for who he really was. That evening, Lauren returned home visibly unsettled. I asked if she'd had a rough day at work. She mumbled something about stress. Then I asked her outright if she was upset because she and Michael had been exposed. The expression on her face said more than words ever could. I laid out the evidence I had collected and told her I had already spoken with a lawyer and would be filing for divorce. She broke down immediately, crying, pleading, promising to end the affair, to resign from her job, to go to counseling, to do anything. But it was too late. The trust had been destroyed beyond repair. I told her I was finished and left that night to stay with my brother. The divorce dragged on for 8 months. Lauren fought over everything, even demanding alimony despite being the one who had destroyed our marriage. Meanwhile, Gloria made sure Michael's infidelity became public knowledge, which ruined his reputation. She gained custody of their children, the family home, and the majority of their assets, leaving him with almost nothing. 6 months into the process, Gloria informed me that she had reported the affair to their company's HR department. Both Lauren and Michael were suspended and soon after terminated. Their relationship had violated company policies and exposed the firm to risk. Strangely, I felt both grief and closure. I never wanted Lauren's entire life to unravel, but choices have consequences. She had chosen this path. Since the divorce, Lauren has emailed me several times with apologies, asking if we could at least be friends. I haven't responded. It's not because I hate her. I simply don't owe her anything after the devastation she caused. Gloria and I check in occasionally. She is focused on her children and her career, rebuilding stability. As for me, I am slowly piecing together my own future. I've reconnected with old friends and started rediscovering who I am outside of marriage. Dating again may come someday, but for now, I am learning to value myself, my independence, and my peace. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. It will be built on honesty and self-respect. Two things my marriage ultimately lacked. Starting over at this stage of life was never part of my plan. But sometimes, the greatest heartbreak becomes a doorway to a new beginning.